All right, everybody. It's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, which means it is weekly webinar time with RemanResource. Thanks for showing up. People are going to kind of be coming in as we keep going, and I'm just going to go ahead and start just because you guys are here and we're ready to rock. Today's webinar series was a special request. One of our subscribers wanted to know more. They have a 25 location customer that is coming on and wanted to know the best way to set that up, and then also wanted to know how to set up purchasing and things like that. What are the different options? And one of the best things about EasyOrder, and the reason why it's different than e-commerce, because we don't like to call EasyOrder e-commerce. We like to call it a marketing system. And the reason that we like to call it a marketing system is because it can do things like this. It can handle a customer that has, multiple locations, anywhere from, 25 to 1,000 locations, for a customer all across the United States. And you can handle that large of a customer with EasyOrder. And then you can have different purchasing levels, and, a lot of the big box stores will come at schools and government agencies and say, well, I can not only handle your multi-locations with all my stores around the country, I can handle purchasing, and I can work with your purchasing people and take their POs, and I can have a whole system in place for approving orders and things like that. And so with EasyOrder, you get all that functionality too. So more than just an e-commerce website, this is a marketing tool, and you can handle big customers like this. In fact, a lot of our subscribers will get 1 or 2 locations for, a franchise or a big company, and then eventually move in to start taking care of more locations, and then finally get the entire franchise and, handle business across the U.S. And because, obviously as a with drop shipping now, you can really ship to anybody with the different wholesalers and the vendors. And so you really can handle as large of a customer as you need. So today we're going to go over how to set up these multi-locations, how to deal with them, how to set up purchasers, and all that. Everything's being recorded, just so you know. So if you have to step out, or if you're not able to pay as much attention, you need to come back to it. It'll be on our YouTube channel later on under weekly webinar series. All right, so let's go to EasyOrder. And when you're setting up a multi-location customer, you can either, with most of your customers, I'm going to go to manage customers, you'll have the customer name here, and if you go to order forms, you can have multiple order forms for one customer. So this main customer was AAC Bank, but it has 8 different locations of the AAC Bank, and this is a bad example because it has different business names underneath it, but I'll have a better example later on that you can see. Or you can have just, one single customer that's going to have, the one different, the one order form underneath it. So you can tell, if your customer has multiple order forms by this number. It'll tell you how many different locations or different order forms are set up under this customer. You can really quickly see that at a glance. So whether you have one order form or, 8 order forms, it's all here under the same customer name. You don't want to set up different order forms for each location. Some people I've seen do that. They'll set, each location they get, they'll set up a whole different customer for it. And the reason you don't want to do that is because you'll have multiple of these customers set up, and you only have one order form each, and you can't do reports. There's no purchasing that can be done because you're setting all the order forms separately. So a couple ways to do this. Obviously, if you're going to create a new customer, brand new customer, you would go here. But let's pretend we already have the customer set up, and now we're going to add the second location. So for this example, I think there was this one, they only have one order form set up. So I'll go to order forms, and this is where you have the different locations. And the reason we call it location is a customer is the main customer name. So Acme is the main customer name, and then the first order form is the first location for Acme. So this is the Acme that Bob A is over. And so if you want to create a new order form for Acme, you just click on new, and then you basically start with the location name. So if this is another Acme, you go Acme, number 2, and or it could be, you know, Acme, you know, Austin, you know, wherever the city is, whatever the number is. It can be anything you want to. You have to give them their own login because their order form is different. Fill out all their contact information, shipping information. Bill to can go back to the main company, and then basically put the items on their order form that they need to order, and then you can have created a second location for Acme. So it says add location for Acme. So all you'd have to do is save that, put printers on the order form, and then you would end up having 2 order forms under the Acme customer. Now, the question here is really not about adding 1 order form to a specific customer. It's about adding multiple order forms at once. So there's a couple things you can do, and the easiest way is if you go from home. This is the home page, manage customers, which is kind of the first thing that everyone would do. And then up here at our action buttons, all the buttons that you need to worry about are up here at the top. They always will be. We'll always have a little, you know, pop-up bubble that kind of list what each button does for you. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on export. And you can do this at any time, guys. If you want to export your list of EasyOrder customers to go into a newsletter or to go into, you know, any kind of marketing, if you just want to do a mailing thing and you want to get their addresses, all your customer data can be exported here for use in other ways. So if you just click export, it's going to ask you if you have multiple stores or multiple accounts. It'll ask you which one, and then you just click export. And then what that's going to do, it's going to give you a spreadsheet of all your customer data, and it'll be dated for today's date. And so you just open that up in Excel, which is the spreadsheet program, and all your customer data will be in here. So, you know, you have, you know, customer name, location, their physical name of your contact, login, password, email, phone number, all that kind of good stuff is in the export. So you have all this info. You can use it however you want to. But in this case, what we're doing is we're getting this as a template. And so this number 1, this row right here, has all the different descriptors at the top. And so what we want to do is just take out everything that's not that row and be left with a blank template just like this. So I just really highlighted everything, right-clicked, and then deleted it. And so everything's gone from this template. I see we have a question. It's from Steve. It says, does the customer need to have multiple logins for the different ship-to locations? Yes, and I'll show you in just a sec how we're going to get that info into EasyOrder. Each customer, each order form has to have its own login so that obviously they're directed towards the proper group of printers that you have on their order form, so everybody has to have their own login. And so that's where this comes in. So as each order form is being created, you give them their own login and their own password. So what will happen is when you get a large customer, and that's the goal of EasyOrder, obviously, in B2B, is to get these customers that have multiple locations, lots of different printers, and this is really where EasyOrder shines. Is because it can, you know, handle all this. And a lot of times the customer will be able to send you from their group a spreadsheet that has customer data in it. So for example, they can send you the address of each location, maybe an email address of somebody who works there, you know, the contact person that's either the manager or whoever is in charge of shipping and receiving. And so they can send you all that information, usually in a spreadsheet. And it may not be in, it's not going to be in our format, but what you're going to want to do is, let's say, for example, that this is kind of a bogus company that I set up for this demo. And what I've done is I've taken the group of locations and addresses and phone numbers and contact info like you would really have with a customer, and I've put it into our template, this template right here. And so as you can see, it's the same template up here, customer location, name, login, password. So what you want to do here is everybody's going to be the same customer. So all 25 locations, they're all going to be the same customer. And that's because when you import these into EasyOrder, you're going to want them to all be grouped under that same customer group. And in this case, I went with a fictitious company, Luxury Auto Group. And so the Luxury Auto Group's the main company. It's kind of the corporate headquarters. And so they're all going to be grouped under this. Now the locations are going to be all different. These are different dealerships that you'll have, and they'll be in different parts of the country. Or in our case, I did different parts of Texas, that's where we're from. And so each one of these are going to be different locations, and so that's how you set it up. And you set it up however they call themselves. So if they call themselves Ferrari Partners of Houston, that's the way you set it up. If they do Riata Ford, then that's how you set them up, so they know when they look at their order form that they're in the right place. Then the contact name will be the next one. Basically, you just want to make sure that whoever is in charge of ordering at that location, because the way EasyOrder is set up, you can either have it to where each location orders for themselves, and so these people will actually be placing the order, and then you get a copy of that order, they get a copy of the order, and in some cases, you'll have someone at corporate at Luxury Auto Group that says, no, these people call me up, and then I place the order as a central purchaser, and I order for everybody in my list. And so we can show you how to set that up too. But initially, the way this is set up, as you import it in, you're going to see that each person can place an order for themselves. If you don't want to give them that privilege, you just don't send them a welcome email, and then they'll just get copied on with their email addresses here. They'll get copied on any orders that happen, but they won't be able to order because you haven't sent them their welcome email, their username or password. And so, if the central purchaser is ordering, you don't have to send them a welcome email. If they're ordering on their own at times, then you would send them the welcome email. You would follow up with them, show them how to log on, to each one. It's really important, especially with a big group like this, that you take the time to follow up with each one of these locations. Make sure they know how to order. Make sure they know they have that desktop icon on their desktop. Because it just makes it so much easier when you've locked them in. Their corporate office has already told them they need to do this. You just have to show them how to do it, and then they'll be able to do it. So here's the question about the login. Does each one of these order forms need a special login in order to place the order? Yes, they do. And the easiest way to do that is if you come up here and you put like an 001 after whatever you want the username to be. And then see right here where I have my plus sign, and as I hover over this, it turns into a smaller plus sign, and I'm able to click and grab this bar here. What it does, if you pull down on this, it's going to create sequential logins just really quickly and easy for you, just by pulling that bar down. And so each one of these logins are going to be unique, which is going to allow them to log into their order form in a unique way, so they're only going to see their own products and everything. Same thing with the password. You can obviously be more secure with the password and give them really secure passwords, or you can just do what I did here and pull this down, and you're going to have unique usernames and passwords for the group. The only reason you may not want to do this is if there's really high security and one location could guess another location's password based off the schema that you have going on, and somebody could log into another person's account. In that case, you'd want to do separate passwords that are not guessable by anybody else. But usually in this case, because we're not dealing with, there's no credit cards being stored, it's really just printer information that's on here. It's not a lot of crazy data that could be stolen or anything like that, so it's okay to use kind of a simpler username and password setup. This would be the emails where they would give you all the emails for each person that was going to be ordering. I did one generic phone number, but it would all be different phone numbers. And then basically you figure out who the bill is going to. So the next column, you always want to follow what's in the column header, so it'll tell you what to put in there. And you'll be kind of copying and pasting from your spreadsheet into this spreadsheet. So if they give you a list of addresses, for bill to, you go ahead and say, okay, this is the one address for corporate. We're going to bill corporate Luxury Auto Group for all these people's cartridges. They'll all be the same. And then over here, it says ship to. And so this is the bill to. It's all the same. It's one corporate entity, goes to accounting, also goes to the same address. And then ship to starts over here. So you can say ship to attention receiving. This is the physical address of each dealership that we're talking about here. So everybody has their own address here. If you have like a suite number or a second address, you can put that there. Ship to city, ship to state, ship to zip code, and ship to country are all there. USA is kind of the default. We are in different countries, so that's why we have that. But just USA would be the default for everybody here. And then you don't have to really worry about this unless there's like a whole nother bill to kind of situation for each location. So you're good to go there. Tax, this will be set by the system, and then everything else is kind of discounts. Do they have an ID in your POS system? If you're a Cartridge World, you maybe have a POS that has these customers in it, and if so, you can put their POS number, point of sale number for the customer in here, so that it'll link the customer to their account. And then the last thing is the order reminder days. So I put 120 in here. That's just kind of a generic thing. You can put 90, 60 days, 30 days, whatever you want to. And whenever this threshold is crossed, this will send a notification to you that the customer hasn't ordered in this number of days. So you can set that all up from this spreadsheet. And so that's the last field on the spreadsheet. So once you have it kind of looking like this, to where everybody has a login, everybody has a password, you've got emails in there, your ship to, your bill tos are all good, you're ready to go. And so what you want to do is just kind of save this file and keep it in this comma delimited format. This format is how databases read data like this. So you want to keep it in this format. A lot of people will default and it'll change it to like an XLS, XLS, like an Excel sheet, but we want to keep it this CSV so we can read it back into our system. So I'm going to sit here and save this. I'm going to say this is demo 2. Yeah, okay, cool. So cool. It saved it as the same document, which is fine. Let me let Bill in here. Hey, Bill. Okay, so for anybody who missed it, we're basically importing a bunch of customers. We've kind of massaged the spreadsheet to have all of the customer data that they've sent us. We've given them different usernames and passwords. We've gotten their emails. Everything is ready to go. So basically, once you're ready to import into EasyOrder, you just go back to Manage Customers. And so again, I'll show you where to get to that. So we're home. This is the main control panel. We'll go to Manage Customers, and then we'll do Import. And so you want to choose your file. And on my desktop, I have adding locations demo. And notice it's a CSV. It says it has to be a CSV. You can also download a basic template here if you're on the import page. And then you import it into whichever store you want it to go into, and you just click Import. And so what it does is it says 1 new customer added and 24 items imported successfully. So really quickly, right there, if I look up luxury auto group, now when I go to them, notice they have 24 order forms here. So we basically just set up in mass a 24 item or 24 order form customer with just like one click of a button. A little massaging of a spreadsheet, one click of a button, everything's in there. So the hard part is kind of done for you, which is the meticulous creating each customer, and then all you have to do is go set up their order forms. Now, if you have a customer like a lot of customers these days are getting the same printers, and they're putting those same printers in at each location, so they don't have to worry about every location having different supplies. And so if you have a customer that has the same items, even if they only have like 2 of the same printers at each location, you can go in and create an order form template and then apply that template to each order form here, so you don't have to add the printers that they have at each location. So real quickly, I'll just show you where that is. I won't go through the whole thing, but you just go to Manage Order Form Templates, and then you would create like a new order form template, and this would be called, Luxury Auto. And you can put it in whatever department you want, and then you just basically add items like you would to an order form. This is the standard EasyOrder, database interface here. And then you search for whatever you want. If you're searching for a specific printer, again, you can just type in the number. Don't worry about typing in color, LaserJet, or anything like that. Everything will come up, if you just type in the number. You can add the cartridges to the template that you want on there. Click Save. Here's all the items on the template. If you want to change the price for this customer, you can do that, and it'll stick for just this customer for the template. And you can change the price for whatever you'd like to, and then hit Save. And when you're done with that, you have a template with these items on it. Now you can put this template on anybody's order form. The good thing about the templates is if you have 24 order forms and you want to change something out, so let's say they all get rid of one printer because you recommended a higher yield printer and you put in another printer, if you just change the template, it would change on all 24, 25 order forms at once. And so the benefit of doing the template is you only have to make the change once if anything changes. If you're setting it up without the template, and even if the luxury auto group has the same printers at different locations, if you just change the price of the cartridges on that printer because they share locations, it'll change in all the locations as well. So we built that in, because obviously if you're going to charge them a certain amount of $60 for this cartridge at one location, you're going to charge them for the same at all the locations. And so we have it to where if they're all under the same customer, if you change the price for one printer and that printer's on other order forms, it does change on the other order forms. Just wanted to point that out. So going back to the luxury auto group, now that we have a template, I'm going to go home again, and then I'm going to go to manage customers. I've already had the luxury auto group typed in, so it's going to be there. And then I can go to their order forms. And so from here, I can do a couple different things. So these are the different order forms that I set up in the spreadsheet. And so everybody is under the one customer. And so I can go in here and I can edit the order form for the first one. And the first thing you can do is either, if this particular luxury auto group customer for Audi Partners of Austin, if they have specific printers that you need to put in here, you just do the same thing as you would do normally for EasyOrder. You click new, you add their printers, whatever they have. You can put it in the sales department. You can name it for, wherever it is. If it's in the back office, if it's in the admin section, if it's in sales, the more you dial in these order forms to be specific to the customer, the better it's going to be for them, the better it's going to be for you, because you've really customized this experience for them, giving them something they can't get anywhere else. So the more you dial it into the customer, the better it is for you. So you can either click new and add a new printer, or you can add from the template. So let's say that I want to add from this template. I'm just going to click on luxury auto group, and so it puts that template in there. If you view the order form, and again, all these buttons are kind of the action buttons for here. View is the one I want to look at the order form when I want to just check it out. It'll log you in as the customer, so you can click view. And oh yeah, I specified this form. And so anyway, you can click view and you can look at it, or you can click mail and send the welcome email to the customer, whichever one you'd like. I'm going to click on new here, and again, I can just put in whatever printer that I'm looking for if they have different printers. And I'm just going to put in this here, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And we can call this, managers, printer, sales department, and click save. You have this order form set up, and what you'll want to do is go into each order form for each customer and then basically add the items they have at each dealership. So once you have all those done and you have each item at each dealership set up correctly for all the different locations that you have, now we're going to talk about purchasing, because you may have these guys just order for themselves, and then you would just send them welcome emails. You can click on all these and click email, and it's going to send a welcome email out to each location at the address that we had in the spreadsheet, at this address that we had, this email address. And it'll send it all out to those people, and then they can order for themselves. Or if it's a situation where there needs to be purchasing and approval and different levels of that sort of thing, we basically are just going to go to back home, and I always start from home just because it helps show you where I'm going. Manage customers, luxury auto group, and then basically I'm going to go down to purchasers. So once I'm at purchasers, I'm just going to click on new. There's no purchaser set up at all for luxury auto group. You can tell the customer is right here. I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to set up a purchaser. So don't worry about the drop down. It's for different functionality, but you just want to give the purchaser a special username, Lux Auto CP. I tend to use CP as the username because it stands for central purchaser. And so use something similar to the company Lux Auto and then CP would be for the central purchaser. And then you can put the password in here, and we generate the password for you. And obviously their first name, last name, I'll just do Bob Smith, and then Bob S at luxuryauto.com. And that's his email. You can put his phone number in there if you want to. And then so the biggest part about this is really over here. This is just setting up the credentials for the purchaser, and everything else is setting up their access. And so if you notice, we have all 25 locations, that we set up are listed here. If you want the central purchaser to have access over all of the locations, you just click all, and then all these locations are checked off. And so this central purchaser, when they get their welcome email and they download their desktop icon, instead of seeing one order form, they're going to see a list of multiple order forms. They're going to see all 25 of these order forms listed out kind of like this. And then they can just click into the order form. They can see what you have set up for them on each order form, and they can make an order for that particular location. And then they actually have to click back on the home button on the top of the order form, and that'll take them back to the list of all the order forms here. And then they can go into another order form, place the order, go back home, go down the list until they've ordered for all their locations. So that's how you would set up locations for a central purchaser that was ordering for everyone. It would be just like this. You'd enable for all, and then you just set them up, send them their welcome email, and then when they log in, they'll see all the different order forms they'll be able to order for each location. Now, if you need approval for these locations, one thing before I go to that, sometimes, and I had this recently, you'll have district managers involved in a situation. So let's say that you were setting up a purchaser. There's actually a district manager for Luxury Auto Group, but they're over certain territories. So kind of like master franchisers or different kind of groups like that are over different territory managers. And so they may not be over the entire company, but they may need to have access to multiple order forms to be able to order. So let's say that this purchaser was a district level purchaser, and they were only going to be over the ones in, let's say Austin. And so you could click on any of the ones that says, Austin on it, and you can give them access to only the ones that are in Austin. And so as they go through here and, are added to the system, you would only give them access to these particular order forms. So when they log in, they're only going to see the 3 or 4 order forms that you've given them access to. And you can have as many purchasers in here as you want to. You can have one that's over everybody. You can have one that's over just a few, and like I showed you with the district. And then you could have multiple district managers who are over the rest of the territories. So you can really set it up any way that the customer needs to order. EasyOrder can handle that. So you just want to set them up exactly the way that they're asking you to set it up. If they don't know what they want, then obviously you can suggest to them the best way to do this. But a lot of times you just want to listen to them and figure out how they normally order and then try to replicate that with an EasyOrder. The last thing that I'm going to go over for today is the approval process. The approval process is something, again, that you won't get out of an e-commerce website. This is definitely a marketing tool for EasyOrder. It allows you to, be able to handle customers that have to have an approval process. So basically, we have multiple levels of approval. It starts with no approval, and then you go to the first level of approval. So if this particular Auto Partners of Austin needed the central purchaser to approve their orders, you would just set it to level 1, and then whenever Audi Partners of Austin ordered, this central purchaser, Bob Smith, would get notified saying, hey, Audi Partners of Austin just placed this order, and you will get a copy of the order as well, because when this Audi, orders their products, you want to get a heads up of what they're looking for. So if you need to source, cartridges or, go to your vendors and figure out who has what, you'll get notified as soon as they order. And when the order comes in, it'll say status received at the very top in bold letters. And it'll say not approved. And so when you get that order, you know that the Audi Partners of Austin has ordered. You have purchasing set up with them. And now you're waiting for Bob to approve the orders. What happens with Bob is he'll get an email, not with the order, but he'll get an email saying, you have orders to approve, click here. And when he clicks the link in the email, it's going to automatically log him into his account, take him to his central purchasing platform, and he's going to see the orders in a list, and he can click on any of the orders, look at the order, and then hit approve at the top of the page. And when he hits approve, it's going to send you a notification that the order is approved, big bold approved at the top of the order form, or the order confirmation email when it comes in. The customer, this central purchaser will get a copy that he's approved the order, and then Audi Partners of Austin will get a copy that their order has been approved, so they know that it's on its way. So you can absolutely set levels of purchasing up. If you want to set all the levels for everybody, you just basically type in the level you want, and then it's going to set all the levels to a level 1 purchaser for everybody who's checked. And so it'll go through here and set everybody. So basically, you have that level of purchasing. If you had, for example, 2 levels of purchasing, which really doesn't happen a lot, you could set this to 2, and then not only would Bob have to approve, another purchaser would have to approve Bob's approval, which doesn't happen very often. But we have such a robust system that you could have up to 9 levels of purchasing and approval, which if you ever need that, I'm sorry for you as the vendor for these guys. So anyway, that's kind of how you set up the purchasers. That's how the multiple locations are set up. When you're ready to go, if you were to set up this purchaser, there would be a checkbox next to his name, and there'd be an email link to email him the welcome email, where he could download the icon and be able to look at all his locations. So from getting the data from the customer to getting it into EasyOrder and getting it into your customer list, it's really just an import away to get your order forms done. Really the hardest part is just kind of taking the data that they have and then kind of putting it in our template, in our spreadsheet template. Other than that, it's just importing it in. It's super easy. A lot of people get tripped up on the username and password, but I showed you how quickly you could create those unique usernames and passwords. It doesn't take a long time. And then once you get in, all you have to do is make sure you go to the order forms, make sure you edit the order forms and add their printers and cartridges to the order form. Like I said, you can use a template if you'd like, and you're good to go there. So that is how you set up multiple locations and deal with different levels of purchasing. I'm going to unmute everybody. Everybody's unmuted now that has a microphone or is on the phone. So if you have any questions, now is the time. Steve, does this make sense to you?
Yeah, no, this makes makes sense. The only question I had, the central purchaser, he sees all the order forms, but he doesn't necessarily have to log in each password and login information for each one. It's already set up, right?
Correct. So when he's going to get a special welcome email when he gets sent the welcome email, and when he downloads the desktop icon, instead of seeing order forms, he'll see a list of all his order forms and all at once from one login. And he'll be able to click on each location and go into that location, place the order, click the home button to go back to see that big list of order forms, and then they can go on to the next one and the next one. And so he can order like that. And that's how most central purchasers like to do it. They like to order for the locations as the locations call up and request things.
Right. So the login password really only applies to if you send each of the location a welcome email and they could order.
It needs it anyway just to set up the account. So let's say, for example, they're never going to order. You would still give them this login and password just to create the order form, but then you would never send them the welcome email, and you'd only send it to the central purchaser because the actual locations aren't going to be doing any of the ordering, so they don't need welcome emails or desktop icons or anything like that. They just need to let the central purchaser go ahead and order for them.
But if they want to, if the central purchaser allows them to order individually and with no approval levels, you can set that and he can just get copied on the orders has been placed or something, right?
Exactly. So if these locations are going to order for themselves, I'm going to mute everybody again real quick because I got a lot of noise in the background. So basically, if the locations are going to order for themselves, you're going to want to send each location a welcome email, and then you don't even have to send the central purchaser their welcome email, all you'd have to do is just add them to the system, and then basically they would just get copied on their email. So if I go in here to purchasers and created a new purchaser, and I just filled this out and put their email address here and then gave them approval to be over all the locations, as these guys order, even though this person hasn't been sent a welcome email, they're going to get copies of each order in their email, so they can just be aware of what each person is ordering. Steve, I unmuted you just kind of by yourself, so did that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, I mean, because what I find out is sometimes the central purchaser gets overloaded, and they'll go ahead and say, no, go ahead, just order direct from Cartridge World.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they order two on their behalf. If somebody's new, it goes into, so it goes both ways.
Well, the good thing about this is whenever anybody orders, the central purchaser is going to be aware of it. So whereas a lot of times when they would call you up or whatever and place the order, the central purchaser wouldn't be aware of that order, and they'd order on top of that, and you'd have a double order. So this way, the central purchaser is going to be copied every time someone orders, so there's going to be no overlap of that sort of thing. That should kind of stop all that for you and kind of make the purchaser's life a lot easier. Because a lot of times if you don't have a system that kind of organizes it like this, it does get overwhelming for the central purchaser to figure out who ordered what. So, I mean, there's a full order history here that they can look up. There's everything to kind of help the central purchaser know who's ordered when and what's been ordered. So they have a hang on it. We have one of our subscribers that got one of the larger tax companies, in the U.S., and they had 450 locations that the central purchaser was over and had to order for. And they told us at one time at one of the meetings, they shared this to one of our subscribers who took care of them. They said, our customer said that they would never leave us. And it's not because of our cartridges or our price or whatever. It's because we turned their chaos into organization with EasyOrder. So it's one of those things where, you give them the tools, they'll stay with you. This is a big customer retention tool. To make sure that the customers stick with you, and it's this kind of level of service that they're not going to get at Office Depot. They're not going to get this level of service at Staples, and this is one of the reasons that they're doing business with you, is because you have all these ways to make their lives easier. And in this Amazon kind of world of convenience, where everybody needs their food delivered to them, and everything else, convenience is key, and this is what you're able to give these guys. If there's any more questions, I'm going to mute. Thank you, Steve. I'm going to mute everybody again. Thank you again also for your suggestion for the topic. I love when people do that. If anybody else has a suggestion of a topic to do a weekly webinar on, just fire it off to me. That's at support@RemanResource.com. And you just fire it off to me anytime during the week and just say, hey, I'd like to know more about this, and then we can incorporate it into the weekly webinars. It's good for me because, I can focus on something that you really want to talk about versus something that, I just pull out of the sky that you may want to know. So anyway, thank you everybody for coming to the weekly webinar. I want to keep them about 30 minutes. I know I've gone about 10 minutes over. We want to keep them short and sweet. We're doing this every week until the last weekend of December. So thank you again for coming by. We'll be here next week. I'll send everybody a copy of this video from our YouTube channel, just a link. And if you need anything else, just let us know. Thanks for being our customer.